Hey guys, before we get started, we just want to say thank you to DigitalFoto for sending us the ARES Gimbal Dual Handle for review. As usual, we're not paid to say anything besides our own opinions, and DigitalFoto does not get to see this video before it is published. Let's get straight to the point. I was using the ARES Dual Handle with my DJI RS2 during my last dance video shoot, and it definitely helped stabilizing the footage most of the time. The reason why I said most of the time is because when you have a setup that is too heavy, it might not work. I know I was pushing the limit of these dual handle because I was using it with my RS2 and a fully rigged out BMPCC 4K camera and a wireless video transmitter as well. That's why I am here to tell you not to do that. When your setup is too heavy, the springs inside the handle just cannot handle the weight and it will make the camera even bouncier than without them. This is especially obvious when you are trying to move around with your gimbal really fast. Once the springs start bouncing, it is not easy to stop it without stopping all the motions. The ARES Dual Handle works the best when you are using it slowly with a reasonable setup weight. When it is doing its job, it works really well. I don't know about other people, but I really don't like seeing footage bounces when I am using a gimbal because most of the gimbals on the market cannot stabilize footsteps, which is the Z-axis. By using the ARES Dual Handle, the footage bounce will be reduced very significantly depends on how you used the gimbal before. If you have very stable ninja steps, you might not see a big difference. But since I'm always filming dance videos, I just cannot do ninja steps all the time, and the ARES Dual Handle really helps. Besides getting rid of the footstep bounce, when I am filming dance videos, a lot of times I will have to go up and down very quickly, and that will create a lot of unwanted up and down vibrations as well. Having the ARES Dual Handle makes the up and down motions a lot smoother. So if you go up and down with the gimbal a lot, this dual handle will make your footage even smoother. Alright guys, so what I'm going to do right now is to show you the difference between using the DigitalFoto ARES Dual Handle on the RS2 and without using the dual handle on the RS2. I'll be doing some walks, some runs, some up and down motions to show you guys the difference. Another very important advantage using the ARES Dual Handle with the gimbal is the dual handle. I can never get used to or get comfortable using a gimbal with a single grip unless it is a smartphone gimbal. Even when most of the mirrorless cameras nowadays are very light, I still prefer having a second handle. Trust me, splitting the weight and having your arms in a more natural position than a single grip is much better, especially when you have to film for hours. Usually a dance video will take around 2 to 3 hours of filming time. I don't even think I can do it without having a second handle. When you are using the ARES Dual Handle, your arms are going to be in front of you very naturally, which makes it a lot easier to film and to see what's on your camera screen. But keep in mind, if the dual handle starts bouncing very hard again, it will just make it even harder to see the camera screen. That is why I think the ARES Dual Handle is much better than accessories like a gimbal ring because they only give you a dual handle setup without much added features compared to a dual handle with springs. When it comes to setting up the ARES Dual Handle with your gimbal, it is actually very easy. I'm using it with my DJI RS2 and all I have to do is to slide the gimbal handle through the mount that has a clamp inside. When it hits the top, tighten the knob, attach both handles on each side, and that's pretty much it. If your gimbal handle is too thin, they have included a spacer in the box, which is awesome. If your gimbal handle is too thick, they have also included a tripod thing that you can attach to the bottom of your gimbal and attach the dual handle at the bottom. Personally, I will not use the tripod adapter because all your weight will be at the top while you're controlling the gimbal at the bottom. This makes me super nervous when filming because I've seen tripod mounts snapping because of a top heavy setup, and I'm sure you know what happened next. The whole setup just went straight to the floor. Just make sure your setup is going to work before you get the dual handle. I can tell you now that the DJI RS2 works perfectly fine with the ARES dual handle without using the spacer or the adapter. When it comes to adjusting the strength of the stabilization, there is a knob on each handle that allows you to tighten the spring depends on the weight of your setup. The heavier the setup, the tighter the screws you need. If the screws are too loose, your gimbal would just be sitting at the bottom and the dual handle is not going to stabilize the up and down motions. If they are too tight, it will also not stabilize the motions. You will have to try multiple times to find the right spot for your setup. For my super heavy setup, I had to tighten the screws all the way. Besides the springs, you also have the ability to adjust the angle of the handles. I would say most people will have them either straight up or straight down, but don't be afraid to try to angle them if it makes your filming experience better. I really like how they have these teeth when you adjust the angle of the handles because it makes the adjustment a lot more secured and they pretty much won't slip. Let's talk about how comfortable the grip is on the ARES dual handle. It has a rubber grip that feels a lot more secure than a lot of gimbal grips on the market. Sometimes you have these plastic handle on the gimbal, and I'm always afraid of the whole setup slipping off of my hand, but the ARES handles are much better. They have also included a ring that you can tighten at the top of the handle in case the rubber grip starts slipping and turning, and that is a very nice feature. On top of the handles, you have a 1/4-20 mount that you can use to mount accessories like monitor, light, or microphones, and I think that is very handy. There are a couple of things you need to consider when using the ARES dual handle. First, it does add some extra weight to your setup. It is not much, maybe about the same as adding a monitor with a battery, but when you have to operate the gimbal for hours, a slight added weight will be huge. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're using the dual handle, you will lose the ability to control the gimbal while filming. You won't be able to pan or tilt the gimbal. You won't be able to pull focus using the built-in control wheel because your hands are just not there. So if you're filming something that requires the control of the gimbal, this dual handle might not be the most ideal accessory. When it comes to the build quality of the ARES dual handle, it is very simple. Very solid metal constructions, and all the knobs and screws are made out of metal as well. When you tighten the screws, the whole setup is very solid. By the way, you can take the dual handle apart into 3 main pieces to carry it, which is very handy. You can even leave the mount on your gimbal if it doesn't bother you. Those are the major features of the ARES dual handle. In this part of the video, I will show you how to attach it and adjust it to work with my DJI RS2. If you don't need to see this, you can use the timestamp in the description below to jump to the conclusion of this video. Alright, let's take a look and see how we can attach the DigitalFoto ARES dual handle to the DJI RS2. My setup here is the DJI RS2 gimbal with the BMP-CC 4K camera, fully rigged out, tilted cage, NPF battery, a super heavy setup. It's probably not supposed to be used with this handle, but this is my usual setup when I'm filming. So this is what I'm going to show you guys. With the DJI RS2 gimbal, you do not need to use this spacer because this handle is not too thin. If your handle of your gimbal is too thin, you will need the spacer to be placed inside the dual handle in order to have a smaller space for your gimbal handle, but you don't need this for the DJI RS2. And this is the tripod adapter, just in case if your gimbal handle is too thick, then you'll need this to attach to the bottom of your gimbal and mount the dual handle onto this adapter. But I'm not going to use this as well because I don't need it. And plus, remember, if you use this, your whole setup is going to be like way above this dual handle, and it's kind of dangerous that way. So I wouldn't recommend using this as well if you don't have to. All right, let's take a look. So my setup here is already balanced. It's a super heavy setup, but it's still working fine. I have a counterbalance here to balance the gimbal that way. What you need to do is basically slide the handle through this mount right here. I'm just gonna be careful not to drop anything. I'm gonna spread the tripod legs first just to lock this down. And I'm gonna place the gimbal back onto the surface. And you have to move this dual handle. I would suggest you to move it as high as you can. With the DJI RS2, it's pretty easy because it's where the top of the battery handle is. And all you need to do now is, let me show you guys, to tighten this knob right here so the mount can be secured onto your gimbal handle. When you first got the dual handle here, these will be detached. So let me remove it to show you guys. So you can take the handles apart. It's up to you if you want to do it this way or you want to assemble the entire dual handle first before you mount it onto your gimbal. It's the same thing. It might be a little bit easier if you just use the mount. So tighten the knob and it's really secured. And if you want to carry your gimbal without removing this mount, I think it's still fine. It might not fit the case that comes with the RS2, so it's up to you. So if you carry your gimbal separately, you can keep this mount right here, and all you need to do when you're on set is to attach the dual handle. And the knobs are at the front. Let me show you. To tighten this handle right here, make sure that you tighten it a lot or super tight. There's actually a really smart cutout that will prevent the handle from slipping off of the mount, so you don't really have to worry too much. Even if this knob is loosened, it's not going to come off and then drop your entire setup. So this is how you can mount it onto the DJI RS2. With these two knobs, this is where you can strengthen or to make the spring inside this handle tighter. So with my heavy setup, I have to tighten these knobs as much as I can to make sure that it's holding onto the gimbal. What you need to do when you are testing this setup is when you lift up your gimbal with both handles, the gimbal should be floating kind of. You can see that the arms are kind of horizontal. I found this is the most ideal because this is how your gimbal can kind of float with this dual handle. If you loosen the arms too much, your gimbal will be sitting at the very bottom like this, and there's not much point. And the dual handle will not be able to do anything to stabilize the up and down motions. If it's too tight, then the entire arm is like holding the gimbal like this. And again, it's not gonna do too much to stabilize the up and down motion. But this is the perfect way, at least to me. This is what I found. So this is a super heavy setup, but it works. So this is how I use it to film my dance videos. Let me move a little bit closer. Thumbnail time. So as you can see, this setup is really good because now the display, the camera screen, is facing my face right now, almost at eye level. And my arms are pretty natural. Up like this, I can tuck my elbow or my elbows in to make sure that I don't get super tired. But this is a heavy setup, trust me, this is a really heavy setup. If you have a lighter camera, that will probably be easier. Something that people might want to do is to adjust the angle of these handles. You can release by using these knobs, and they do have teeth inside this joint right here, so the adjustment will be more accurate and more secure. Some people want to like to flip it downwards. I would suggest you guys can try to angle the handle and see what feels the best, but for me, I'll just leave it up like this for now. You can angle it, it's strong enough for most of the setup, but this is how I use it for my videos. And it does absorb a lot of up and down motion. So your gimbal, it's almost like it's floating because of the 4 axes being stabilized right now. And the mount in the middle is really secure as well because it's smaller than the top part of the RS2 handle so it will not slip. And everything, just tighten up everything to make sure that everything is secured. And that's pretty much it. So this is how you can attach the DigitalFoto ARES Dual Handle onto your gimbal. This is the DJI RS2 gimbal that I use for all my videos. This is how you do it. That's it. Those are my thoughts on the DigitalFoto ARES Gimbal Dual Handle. I really enjoy using it, and I think I will keep using it with my DJI RS2 just to have the extra smoothness in my videos. It is very easy to carry around, so I don't see why I don't want to keep it in my bag. The only thing is you do need to practice to get used to the mechanical stabilization in order to fully utilize it. Other than that, I think it is a great accessory for gimbal work. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. If you're interested in seeing other accessories like the Thanos from DigitalFoto, leave a comment so we can ask them to send us the sample. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.